All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's 6:34. It's Friday, and I know there's never really 6:30 clubs on a Friday. I do the 6:30 club Monday through Thursday, but I did say if I do get a decent amount of Red Dog Mindset signups, I would do a few Fridays, and the more we get, the more Fridays I'll do. Anyway, did my nice workout, got my mind right. Was in the sauna this morning, sweated it out, listened to some 80s rock, get ready for the day. Last night, futures are down like 30. Now they're up 40. So not making it easy, but life sometimes never easy. Anyway, I hope everyone's feeling good. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. Welcome to today's 6:30 Club. At this point, we've been in a very tough market where you have tech dragging the market lower, software making lows every day. Crypto's been in a pretty much free fall. But there's been things, there's been clues, there's been ways to navigate as long as you're making the right decision and you're trying to follow your process and plan, making some progress. That's all you could do. You got to try things out. Paper cuts are fine, but gushers could put you out of business. So anyway, let me say good morning to some of my dogs around the world. Happy Friday. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Glory. Good morning, Ken. What up, DeFi? What up, Jose? We got Mac in the house. We got Blair. What up? What up? We got Michelle. A lot of people waking up and tuning in. Anyway, with that being said, question is, what's next? So you look this morning, the SPYs are up 4, right? So here we are at 680. This is like 681.76, kind of where we broke down from or broke below on Wednesday. So this was probably a spot that we would have loved to have traded, right? If we opened lower today, but it didn't happen. Get over it. I would think the 684 to 686 is going to be a zone that's going to be hard to get reclaimed. So this is a spot that if you covered on 3 days down, if you sold your puts, if you sold some hedges, then perhaps this is a spot, to buy some back for maybe Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, if you think that this sell-off is going to continue. If you don't think so, then don't do it. All I know is this week what's been working for me is every time we've rallied up, I bought puts like $7 lower, and then when we've come in, I've sold the puts and it's helped fund, some bad positions. So for today, I would think if we get towards 684 to 686, maybe I'll buy some 675 puts for next Tuesday or Wednesday to give it some time, just in case we do continue down. You do get reflex rallies. The oscillator went out of minus 55, so hopefully, you're not super duper short. Anyway, so that's your spot. And the Qs, what would I think? Qs also broke. Qs were down for 1, 2, 3 days. This is your 600. It's going to be above that. I would think that in the Qs, what's this low? This low is 607. I would say 607 to 610 is going to be a spot. So today's going to be a little tricky. If you got rid of some of your longs and you wanted to maybe be out of the way, now you're opening up, and it's going to be hard to buy these things up. So but then you don't want to short too early just in case they continue to the upside. So we'll see how it shakes out. The market's really good at making everybody feel as bad as possible. 618 was really the level that most of my guys reduced risk this week earlier. So anyway, yes, I did take Amazon options. I'm going to lose money. Red Dog will lose money in Amazon options. It happens. Now the stock's at 206. The question is, can you buy the shares? Maybe. Down 16 points. This low is what? This is 220. So perhaps I lose money in the options, but then we see that you could buy the stock. They did have a big spend. This is 211. This is 198. That's where it was last night. We'll see how much of this gap gets filled. Well, at this point, you don't know. Last night, it was it kept getting rejected around 207. So, it was a decent quarter. The AWS is decent. They have a big spend. Stock has done nothing. It's been one big range. It's been really annoying. If I were to look at if I were to look at my P&L from the past 2 years, chances are I haven't done so great with Amazon because Amazon's been a spurty range trade without a lot of follow through. It is what it is. Anyway, The oscillator went out at minus 55, oversold is minus 40. And no, I did not put the blood in the street account to work yesterday. Google's down a little bit, but look at this move. Look at this move. So some people who took options yesterday, which I didn't do, lost there, but made a ton more buying it in the hole. It was strong all day, reclaimed the 50-day. You could have been a buyer at the 50-day and made 10 points intraday in control, which was a lot more money than whether your options would have went from, a call spread from 5 to whatever it is. So anyway, a lot of things that were lower last night are a little bit higher. So we'll see how that goes. Iron also was down a bunch. It was as low as 30. What was the low here yesterday? 38.90. So we'll see what kind of bounce that has. Probably be enough to, if it was lower, it would have been easier to buy it in the hole. And instead, they're probably just going to screw all the option guys, which happens. So yesterday I did buy in the hole for a bounce, which is going to help me today, the IGZ. Let's see, where is that? That's the software sector. So I didn't buy the stock. I just bought the sector because I figured, hey, it's been battered and bruised, and maybe there's there's a play there. So what was it? The IGV. I'm sorry, IGV. Like, look at that move. So I wasn't going to take it home long. The shares, people who did that on here got a little crushed. So instead, I bought some options. What do I think can go? Maybe you can get a broken bounce. We've seen broken bounces. It's been below the 8-day. It's super duper stretched. So it made some sense. It would have been nice to buy things in the hole, but again, it's just not the market we're in right now where they're making it easy and giving you follow through. IGV. So that's what was the low here yesterday. This is 79.27. Anyway, 79.27. Will this be the low, of February? I don't know. All I know is I took some options. We'll see how much of today's bounce holds. They've really crushed things like a Microsoft, but again, it's been broken for so long. It got super extended. We'll see what kind of bounce happens here. Apple probably takes a day off because it was stronger. For those of you who bought Apple with me, 1 week ago today, post numbers, this was great. So maybe, they're going to want to, keep this up here while the moving averages catch up, and, buy some of the oversold names. But again, we'll see how that goes. Bitcoin, Neo, come on, Sam. Bitcoin got absolutely crushed. I did buy some IBIT calls into the close just because I had to do something here into this, liquidation. Did you hear that, Mr. CEO said that in order for them to have problems, Bitcoin has to go back to 8,000. So, Mr. is probably not in his bad day, is in bad shape as some would have thought. So maybe that gets a bounce. But I'm not going to play Mr. I played IBIT. What did I buy? IBIT $40 calls. So I went out to February 13th. So that is that next Friday or that's the Friday after? No, next Friday for some kind of bounce. So we'll see. So maybe I'll trim a little bit of both of those and see how much of today's gap holds. Spiders, once again, are at 682. So this really is going to be like, what type of snapback do we have? Can sellers reject price? Where do they do it? Are they going to run some shorts over? Sometimes they do that on a Friday after 4 days, getting everybody out. People are scared to be in things over the weekend, and they crush you. You know what? NVIDIA will be up this morning. Couldn't really take it home long, right? You just couldn't, even though you knew that, they're going to continue the CapEx. So, NVIDIA, if you got out of it, here at 184-ish, congratulations. It would be nice to be able to buy in the hole, but it's not, so get over it. If grandma had Kajoni, she'd be grandpa, so it is what it is. Does that mean you could short it here at 176? I don't know. All I know is guys were trying to talk to me and say, hey, doesn't this look like a Head and Shoulders top? It does, but sometimes the neckline holds, and that's exactly where it got to. So after 1, 2, 3, 4 down days, you can't really be going out super duper short. Super duper short doesn't make sense on 4 down days, does it? No. So anyway, NVIDIA's up 5. So NVIDIA is, right at this 176, which is probably going to be a spot that's hard to get through. But, the moving averages are kind of curling down right here now. So this would probably be a bigger spot, that if you were looking to kind of reshort or use the range trading. They're basically taking the easy snapback out of the picture. Like if you wanted to say, hey, I can't wait for a down open on Friday, 4 down days, cover shorts, buy to go red to green, it is what it is. Scott, do you attribute any extra significance to where a moving average and a trend line converge? Of course. Yeah. So here's a convergence right here. Like this is when the 8-day started to roll over. This was a doji. That was your get out of. Remember, I was like, if we can get through 192, we can get to 194, 195. Well, it failed there. So as it rolled over, this was a great spot to short. So when they roll over, it's showing momentum is decreasing, you get out. So then you have your downside moving. Now you have a bounce. So if the sellers have control, they will not let NVIDIA back above 181. And that'll be a spot that if you got out of your longs here or got short and covered yesterday, you could think about reshorting or not. Vago also. Everything's up a lot of points right now. Bitcoin, which let us lower a bunch with software, is up $1.40. So we'll see how much of that gap upholds. So I think when Saylor said 8,000 was his his break-even point, people got a little excited. So it kind of, did a little bit of a short squeeze or a bounce for dip buyers. I bought a tiny bit of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP in my Coinbase account yesterday. And I bought the IBIT calls yesterday. So I'm not so excited. It is what it is. I would have made more money if we were down to buy it to go up. Why is everything down? Why everyone's selling? What's the cause for everything's not down today, Sam? What are you talking about? You got IBIT up $1.40. You got the SPYs up 433. You got the Qs up 513. Everything was down last night. So you're getting a Friday reversal right now. So we'll see. The market's very, very brokenish, so today's that day where it's like, wow, you got to really hold your nose and buy into the close, which is not what active traders usually do. They like to see, price discovery, have levels versus levels, and be more control. He means overall. Well, you had 3 years of double-digit gains, right? Last year the market went down 21%. The S&P went down 21% before going green and rallying up 16, 17. You're allowed to have corrective phases. Corrective phases happen. The S&P is 3% off the highs after an enormous through. Why can't things correct? It happens. It's the market. Okay, some things get beat up more than others. Always. It's just the way it is. It's life. Anyway, that's why, if they made it that easy, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they? That's why you have to be disciplined. That's why you have to do routine. That's why you have to process. That's why you have to do hard things. So when hard things happen, you think clearly. You don't become a deer in headlights. Deer in headlights do not make you money, pushes you out of the business. You got to be able to push the buttons when it's time for it. You look back at a lot of things and you could see, oh my God, ASTS, what could I have seen? Well, look at this red dog reversal top at 124. Everyone knows what a red dog reversal is when it pushes through an area and does a fake out. Did you get out here or did you sit? Iron did a push through failure. Did you get out of your shares when it got above 58.75 and then went back below and then broke the 8-day at 56? Then this didn't happen to you. There are ways. You always got to look back at the charts, not just to learn from them. So then in 3 months from now or 6 months from now, when the charts are being built the day of, you're executing better because you see what happened. Like you look at Bitcoin, look at this false top in Bitcoin right there. Got above it, didn't hold it, false breakout. You play for a breakout, you get the hell out of the way. Then it broke the 8-day right here. That was not only a false breakout, that was a break of the momentum train in Bitcoin. You had a sharp move lower that no one should have been in. You had a reflex rally to retest the area. Then it broke below, retest sold, and then below the 8-day this entire time. Then here it looked like it was worth a try, got rejected, and then this was your out. You got out here. So I'm just saying, you look back at the way things happened. So then when they go through a cycle again, you do better. Like look at gold and silver. Gold and silver went parabolic. We've seen this before. We've seen, you saw great setups in gold, this was a great setup here after, a multi-month consolidation. That was your meaty setup. Then it was a trend above the 8-day, got a little extended, corrected, wedged, then did it again, and then got parabolic. Went parabolic. If you started shorting too early, you definitely couldn't stay with it. But if all of a sudden you saw it stretch, look how stretched it was from the 8-day here, then all of a sudden gapped up, couldn't hold 495, went loose and wide, silver was faulty, then finally got paid short. Anyway, now it's just kind of packing and filling, and it just needs time. They're horrible. ONDS was sold on strength, had a great report, great conference call, but guess what ONDS did? ONDS went from 8 to 15 before the good news, so they sold the good news, and then it came all the way back. And also, if you look at ONDS, over the summer was $2, from 2 to 15. So it happens. Super growth got beat up. It came back into here. It broke the 8-21 day right there. So if you just follow the 8-21 day, you probably get out 1177, which is better than, down into 848. So I'm just saying, like, the technicals tell the picture, not the TV set, not the analyst, not even me. Every analyst in the entire street was Amazon is my favorite pick, and I kind of had a little, blinders on. I'm like, yeah, maybe this will be the quarter that delivers. This will be the quarter that you have a huge move like a SanDisk or an ASML or this and that, and it didn't happen. So what am I going to do? I'm going to lose option money. Risk is premium paid. So now I'm going to see, is Amazon buyable, today down 16? Maybe. We'll see what happens. Maybe it comes in a little bit to 204, goes to 206. You could buy versus 204, and it kind of fills the gap. Or does it keep the entire gap down like Microsoft? I don't know. Remember Microsoft, gap down. The question was how much of this gap would get filled? Well, it made a low. This was 421, right? That was that day. 421 came a little bit above. 442 is your gap pivot. It couldn't fill that gap. Okay, showed that there was no demand. Rolled over, broke 421. So if you were playing for it versus 421, you got stopped out, and you didn't care that it went to 393. So, gaps mean things. They do. And, how do they do them? So anyway, it's up to us to make the right decision at the right time. It's up to you to know what time frame is. You should have multiple time frames. Every weekend I go over my roadmap. I go over my T3 world with my active account, my swing account, my option account, and my box account. Those are the 4 accounts I navigate to create income for, to fund a 401k, a 529, and pay my whole life and live my life. You have to have all these different accounts. You're not going to have all those different accounts. Conrad, my right-hand man, is 22. He doesn't have a 401k yet. He doesn't have a 529. He doesn't have all those things that he will have in 10 years from now. Instead, he has an active account and an options account. Then maybe one day he'll have a swing account and he'll have a box account. It's a process. I'm trying to give everyone a little bit of an advanced see-through so they know how to potentially do things faster and learn from my 30-plus years. If you don't want to learn on your own, everyone always has to learn on their own. Ken R says, Photomic, AXTI, Plablide were all green yesterday. They're gapping up today. All right, so, if something was green in a sea of red yesterday, chances are if you wanted something to buy, those were to buy. So good job, Ken. So what does Plab look like, you're asking me? Now look at that. This option, if you were in this because it never filled this gap, then that's a swing, okay? And yesterday it did reverse. Right? It did reverse. It was green while the market was pretty much in a sea of red. And if you took it home long, you're probably, making some decent money. It's up 68 cents, not a whole lot. So there definitely is ways to read relative strength. And you always just have to have a reason. If you have a reason, get in the trade. If your reason was, hey, I'm in this trade because it never filled this gap, this power, that's one reason. And then you were in this trade because it went green yesterday because in a sea of red, hey, you had 2 reasons to be in the trade. And if that reason changes, you get out when there's no reason. Neo was green. Why do you keep saying Neo, Sam? Let's see what Neo looks like. Disaster. Okay, look, Neo. EV cars kind of suck. This is kind of broken. I guess it's a tiny, tiny bit. It's below the 200-day. It's below the 50-day. Okay, what's Neo? It's probably up 20 cents. Oh, it's up 25 cents. But it is 5%. Good job, Sam. Anyway, I did not put money to work in the BOS account. Apple has outperformed Microsoft since, okay, Apple's been great. But in your head today, you have to be like, okay, Apple's been a great trade for a week while everything else was thrown out the window. So today, Apple probably relaxes because it could digest and let the 8-day catch up. and maybe the names that are shorted or the names that have been annihilated do a little reversion to the mean type moves. That's just a thought. Or Apple's had the relative strength. It continues. I don't think anyone's in a rush to take Apple to all-time highs today. If anything, probably goes on the side, and you see the broken names that have been beat down. They cover and then then you see what's really next. Anyway, it's 6:55, guys. It's been a tough week. I lost money this week also. It's only February. Big freaking deal. This is the second month of the year. There are 12 months. Usually I make my money, 3 times a year. You make big money in 3 pockets that are conducive to your trading style. The other 9 months, you just have to not do anything stupid, not lose money you don't need to lose, and try and make a little and keep your sanity. How do I keep my sanity? I'm up every day. I'm testing myself. I drink my water. I get in the sauna. I do a workout. I now have the Red Dog mindset, which, hundreds of people do the 25-20 with me. You guys tune in the 630 Club. I feel my best. I go over the keys to the day, the complexion of the day, where the money's going. I've been doing it since 2020 for free. For those of you who like the 630 Club, subscribe to the Red Dog mindset, because one day you might walk in and not be able to watch it if you're not a Red Dog mindset subscriber. And then you have the weekends. And then right from here, I'm going to go spend time with the Alpha team. Those are, a few, 500 plus traders that trade for a living around the world. I'll do my 40 charts. I'll mark them up with my active plan. If this, then that, if that, then this. And then we move on. Drink my iced coffee. I did a nice juice cleanse this week, Monday through Wednesday. It was all liquids. I actually felt great yesterday. I might do the juice cleanse again for a little bit, do it Monday through Wednesday, and then and then all of a sudden you have a Red Dog sandwich on a Thursday. You appreciate that a lot more because you didn't have hard food Monday through Wednesday. So do some things to keep your mind sharp. Do some things to test yourself, so this way when you set your mind to something, you could do it. Because as we get older, you don't have coaches, you don't have teachers. All you have is yourself to keep yourself on the straight and narrow. So then you could keep everyone around you on the straight and narrow, and that's about it. The juice cleanse was great, Sam. I feel really good. I probably will do it again next week. And that's that, my doggies. So once again, I'd love to see these moving averages catch up, maybe a little sideways action. And Apple has moved up the list. 1 week ago, went from the C list to the B plus list, and it's going to stay there. As far as something like Microsoft, which has been battered and bruised, we'll see what kind of bounce happens today. Microsoft right now is up 7. So what you want to do is, with these broken names, you want to map out resistance 1, resistance 2, resistance 3. What do I mean? Well, where's the easy bounce? The easy bounce would be right back to here. That would be taking back this day, which would be pretty impressive. If Microsoft can get back to 408.57, that would be pretty. That'd be a good move for it today. Do I think that could happen? Maybe. Let's see what. So this would be one spot. It gets through this spot, then all of a sudden this would be a bigger spot, which is 421. So, and you could also do some retracements halfway through. So that's the kind of thing. Same thing. I'm going to go real quickly before I leave with the SPYs. What type of bounce do we have today? What kind of pushback will the active bulls do? Right now we're above 681. I would think this zone will be a zone that's going to be really hard to get through today. 684 to 686. Right now the SPYs are where? SPYs are at 682. So they've already taken back the easy bounce. If you were buying things, down in the hole last night and you were here, I wasn't. I was at senior night, Livingston versus Milburn, hanging out with my family. But anyway, I wasn't here buying stuff. So now you have 682.70, so 684 would be a spot, or 686, where if you think, you want to maybe reposition, then that's where you got to do it. All right, guys. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Good luck today. And, next week's another week. End on a good note, and then just get your mind clear. Have a great weekend. Feed the brain. Do some things that make you happy. And again, it's February 6th. Just, keep making some progress and keep working on your system and process. That's all you can do. Control what you can control.